Let me get my baby to turn it down a little bit, and then we'll get started. Get my baby to turn it down a little bit, and then we'll get started. On my computer. Please. Get my baby to turn it down a little bit. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. As you're hopping on, I'm just sharing into the group, tagging the saints, doing all the things, and then we'll get started. I probably don't have to do this individually, do I? Okay. All right, cool. All right, we are shared. We are live. We are shared. We have tagged the people. And as y'all come in here, just say hello to me. And yeah, just let me know you're in here. So welcome to an unfiltered Friday. I just like to call it that. Welcome to an unfiltered Friday. I love how my computer is not level at all right now. Okay. Welcome to an unfiltered Friday, where we go live with the affirmation that we've been doing for the week, or that we've been sitting with, that we've done our worthy work with. All right. I am Takesha, TK, people call me for short. I'm one of the members of the core team here at Living Unfiltered, and I'm bringing your affirmation for tonight, which has been, my mountain is made especially for me. Hi, Ariana. Hello. Yeah, so my charger fell. So the affirmation for this week has been, my mountain is made especially for me. And real quick, before we hop into it, because when I say I'm gonna hit it and quit it like I ain't never done before. And how do I know I ain't never done it before? Because my tale be long-winded. And I was like, what do I even be talking about? But tonight, it's not gonna be like that. We're going to hit it and quit it for real. Okay. I wrote down the things that I've been thinking about this week with this affirmation. I'm going to share it, and then y'all can have your Friday night back. So real quick, before we get started, I'm going to just hit y'all with the church announcements and, kind of just keep you up to what's happening at Unfiltered. So we have forms that are pinned to the top of the group. And that is because we want to celebrate the people who are in this community. So be sure that you're filling out the celebration form with birthdays and other special acknowledgments. Please fill out the volunteer form if you would like to serve, or the prayer request and deliverance form if you want breakthrough. Our 2x2 challenge. So back in February, we gave a 2x2 challenge for the second month of the year, right? Everyone bring 2 people, right? And let's grow this community. But it's not just limited to February. The 2x2, it's still going strong. Invite your people to Living Unfiltered to join us in this worthy work. And we are inviting you, if you have a favorite affirmation or one that has impacted you or your life for the better, we're inviting you to submit a 30 to 60 second testimony, sharing your favorite affirmation and how it has impacted you. We would love to hear those things from you and be able to highlight you in that way. And then last but not least, The official unfiltered devotional and workbook is available for pre-order. So please, hi Dana, good evening. So please get your copy. I'll put the link in the chat right now. I will put that in the chat right now, actually. Okay. Okay, cool. So I put the link in the chat for anyone who needs the link for getting like the unfiltered devotional. But I just wanted to like start us off with the announcements and just some things that are happening in the group in our community right now. And now let's get into it. So the affirmation for this week has been, my mountain is made especially for me. And the worthy work, or the thing that I had challenged y'all to do this week, was to identify your mountains. I'm gonna say this specifically though, I don't want to mess it up. Was to identify the mountain or mountains that are in your life and determine what God may be calling you to learn from it or them. Now, every time that, hey Candace, hey girl, every time that, like, golly, I don't know about y'all, but like the affirmations for me, they are always very timely. It's like when the Lord, when he wants you to know something, when he's trying to get something across to you, like he's going to make sure that you know, or that you can't say, even like in hindsight, you can't say that he was not trying to get certain bits of information off to you. See, look, I'm glad I'm not alone. Thank you, Ariane. I'm glad I'm not alone. So this week, right? This affirmation came at a time when I had I just it's been literally like thing after thing after thing after thing in my life, in my family's life, and in my close peeps. Like it's been thing after thing after thing. So much so that we've been like strategically praying against demonic bullies and like spirits trying to bully us into submission or into confessing certain things, right? Like that's how much it's literally been thing after thing after thing. And so when I was asking the Lord, like, what's the affirmation for this week, the thing that he highlighted is this one: my mountain is made especially for me. So hold on, let me put it on the screen so that could be going across. All right, cool. So something to know, right? We typically try to say this, is that what we're doing here, right? So anyone is welcome here, but what we are doing here is strategic affirmation practice based off of the fact that the Lord, our God, the Lord Yahweh, the one true living God. I need to be very clear about that, because I've been learning much more about the specifics of the enemy's devices ever since I started working in the school system, and everything is government funded, or everything has to be so politically correct, or you have to be so neutral and inclusive about so many things. Like, I have learned so much more about the enemy's devices since working in the school system. And I bring that up. I bring that up because there's a lot of gods that people are serving. They're not always the capital G, Yahweh, the one true living God, right? So we here in this community welcome everyone, whatever your background or belief may be. But here we practice the strategic practice of affirmations that are backed by the living word of the living God and by science. We utilize the authority that the Lord says we have in speaking things into existence and in authoring the worlds that we want to create, right? So that's what we're doing here. we are speaking what we want to see. And so it's not always that we come into an affirmation for the week and it's just like, oh yeah, I could get with this one. I say it, it makes me feel good, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes the joint don't make us feel good and we're saying it because we need to see it. And we recognize that we are made in the image of God, and therefore we will utilize our authority of speaking what we want to see. So that's what we're doing here, right? We're undoing all the things that do not line up with what the Lord has designed for us, designed us as. We're undoing all of that, and we're coming into agreement with what heaven says about us. And if we don't see it in this world right now, because God has given us dominion here in this earth, we're going to say it until it happens. And then we'll continue to affirm it as it happens. So my mountain is made especially for me has come in a place where I heard this term the past month, murky March, right? Where stuff just seemed like it was just thing after thing after thing. It's like you were stuck in things and like it was just hard to see, right? Or man, murky March could be so many things, right? But I had heard this one prophet when she was talking about the transition from March into April and like what the Lord was saying it was, she had termed March like murky March. And I was like, bruh, if that wasn't accurate, I don't know what else was, because like I said, the thing's been popping off and not in a good way, right? But the Lord, he just started dealing with me and my close community in the fact that, one, we don't always have to know why. We don't always have to solve a problem. We are not necessarily always going to be the one who fights until there's a solution, right? Sometimes we just have to release and cast our burdens. And even though stuff sucks, even though we might want something to be different than what it is right now, we are still anchored in the fact that the God who created everything, he absolutely could change my situation in an instant if he wanted to. Like, he's able to do it. And I have to trust that if he hasn't done it at this very moment, then there's still something that he's calling me for, calling me to know, to uncover, to come closer to him for, right? So here we are. My mountain is made especially for me. And I'm just going to walk y'all through like how I reviewed this week. First things first is I be needing to know like what things mean and like how they work so that I understand fully what I'm saying, right? So I needed to know, how is mountain and then the word especially defined? Okay. And so the first thing was, I looked up like, what is a mountain? What are the parts of a mountain? How do mountains form, right? And so mountains are classified as a landform that peaks over its surroundings. I be getting excited about like the little things. When I start looking up definitions and I start looking up these scriptures and be asking the Lord, I get excited over the little stuff because there's a lot of things I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things that I have the general understanding of, but I don't know it for real. I don't have the specifics. When I start looking into the specifics, I get excited because I'm like, man, God, you're real intentional and you're real specific. So a mountain is classified as a landform that peaks over its surrounding. The first thing that I thought of when I heard when I read that that's how a mountain is classified, or like what you would define a mountain as, I started thinking about how like God in his word says that we are to be a light on a hill, right? That our light's not supposed to be hidden, that the glory of the Lord is supposed to be upon us and is supposed to go before us. That we are made in such a way that we're not supposed to be hidden, but we're supposed to be the examples. We're supposed to be the display. We're supposed to be the lights that are shining, right? There's nothing about us unless the Lord has us in a moment or a season of obscurity where he's forming us and fashioning us and developing us. There's nothing about us that's actually supposed to be hidden. We are to be walking epistles. We are to be the example. We are the answer, right? So when I read that mountains, they're classified as landforms that peak above its surrounding. You are supposed to be a landform that peaks over its surrounding. When someone is looking for the answers, when someone is looking for how they get peace and they see you, that you're supposed to be the one that they come checking for, because as you're standing, right? As you're standing in the Lord, as you're walking with him, as you're in relationship with him, and he's teaching you, he's developing you, he's loving on you, there's certain things that people should see on you, and you should be standing out amongst the crowd. You should be standing out amongst everything that's around you. So that was the first thing that I had thought about, and this is just the beginning, right? So the cutest name that I found, even though these mountain situations don't be cute, like, let's be honest, but the cutest name that I found for what mountains are called, they're called Earth's ups and downs. And I thought that was so cute. I thought that was just very witty and so funny, right? Mountains are called Earth's ups and downs. They're literally ups and downs in the earth. But when we look at mountains, one of the ways that we look at it is like it's an obstacle or it's a challenge that's ahead of us, right? And I immediately thought of how we'll look at mountains as like life's ups and downs. So I just thought it was super cute that one of the names of mountains was Earth's ups and downs. All right, so moving, right? Mountains are formed primarily in two ways, and I'm just giving like the general overview of this because there's so many terms and there's so much terminology and processes and all these things that happen with geography and science when you start talking about mountains and tectonic plates and all of this stuff and volcanoes and blah blah blah. We're not going to get into all that. That's not the point. I'm going to give the general overview. So mountains are formed primarily of two ways. One, the Earth's crust changing, right? So this is where tectonic plates, they can crash against each other. They can collide, right? They can stack on each other. They can shift. They might separate, right? And these types of activities in the Earth's crust can cause for rocks and pieces of the earth to pile up and form what we know as mountains. And they have different names like dome mountains and folded mountains and fault mountains. Like they all have different names based off of the technique of moving that happened to form them. So that's one of the ways that mountains are typically formed. The other way is as a result of volcanic activity, right? So rock that's melted deep in the earth, or lava that begins to spill out onto the surface and then cools over time. That is the other primary way that mountains are formed. As I looked at that, the next thing that I looked up then was, what are the parts of a mountain, or like what are the elements of a mountain, right? Because y'all was talking good in the comments this week, and I was like, y'all better know about the highs and the lows and the peaks and the valleys and the this and the that. Y'all was talking real good in them comments, okay? So I was like, I'm gonna make sure I know what the heck I'm talking about. So elements of the mountain. So you have the valley, right, which is that terrain, that's the low part between two mountains. You have the foot or the base of the mountain, right? It's the lowest part before the incline on either side. You have the hillside or the skirt, the slope, which is the steep incline and decline. So the sides of the mountain. You have ridges. This one stuck out to me, and I'll tell you why in just a second. You have ridges. They're little pockets. They can be jagged sometimes. They can be round. They can be flat. But those are like those little little pieces of the mountain that kind of stick out and they are not a part of a smooth incline, right? They're the things that you can grab a hold onto. Sometimes they're like big enough to be like a ledge or a landing. Okay. Then you have the top or the peak, the summit of the mountain. Now, this is when I learned the actual like measurement of mountains. So normally a mountain will be classified as a mountain instead of a hill if its peak is 1,000 feet higher than the surrounding area. So this is like how we start getting into specifics, right? A mountain is going to be different from a peak based on its different than a hill, excuse me, based on its elements. A mountain's peak is typically going to be 1,000 feet higher than the surrounding area. So my mountain is made. That I had put in the check-in that something like as I was sitting with this week, something that like the Lord had me do was like break up the sentence, break up the phrase. So instead of just saying it straight, my mountain is made especially for me, it was my mountain is made. And then it was, and it's made especially for me. My mountain is made. Like if we think about what we just learned about how mountains come to be, then something about breaking that phrase up, my mountain is made. That means that a mountain is designed, like it's designed, it's formed. Something had to crash, something had to fold, something erupted, something split apart, something shifted for that thing to become a landform that is now sticking out at least 1,000 feet from its surrounding area. All right. There's something that is grandiose about if a mountain forms, if a mountain is made. Then putting it together, my mountain is made especially for me. So then what do we define especially as? Especially has two meanings. One, used to single out one person, thing, or situation over all others. So then if we look at the definition of especially and we look at what a mountain is, they mean the same thing. Like they mean the same thing in essence. A mountain is a landform that sticks out from its surroundings, and especially means for something to be singled out over all others. The second definition, the second part of the meaning for especially is to a great extent or very much. So especially meaning that person, that thing, that situation, it is carried out very much. It is to a great extent. So thinking of what happens, right? So then I shifted from there, thinking of what happens when people naturally climb mountains. Normally, someone who's going to climb a mountain is not just approaching a mountain like as a rookie or with no equipment, right? This is something that they're aware of what it takes to climb the mountain. Not everybody's always trying to climb to the peak. Also, that's something we got to keep in mind. They're not coming with zero equipment or zero knowledge, right? Because it takes like fine motor skills to climb mountains for people who what's it called, not climbing bareback, but like is it called free fall or something like that? Anyway, like some people use like their hooks and their carabiners and the rope, like they use the equipment to climb. Some people are going to take the path where they're like trailing the mountain. Other people who do this like cliff climbing for an adventure sport and stuff, like they're climbing just with their certain type of shoe on, and like they're using their grip strength and their ability, their physical ability to climb mountains. But the thing that was standing out, like as the Lord had me pondering in this, is that people who go to climb mountains, they train their bodies and their mind beforehand, right? They train their physical bodies. They build up their strength. They build up their endurance. They build up their grip strength and their fine motor skills. They are training their lungs to carry a certain lung capacity, because as you go through levels of the atmosphere, as you climb and you're changing altitudes, right, your lungs will feel different types of pressure, right? So people who are going to attempt a mountain, they don't just go into it with nothing. And then the thing, like with their mind, right, I think about people who climb Mount Everest. It's such a great feat that people do, right? They're taking a team with them. They're taking all kinds of equipment and supplies with them. They're training their mind, right, by knowing how to navigate weariness, because you're gonna get tired, how to navigate exhaustion and fatigue mentally, physically. They're going to have already trained themselves on how to navigate like when negative thoughts or limiting beliefs arise as they are on the mountain. This is what happens when people are going to naturally climb a mountain. This is human beings who like look at it as an accomplishment in their life to climb mountains. This is how they prepare. God had me write this next point down, is that God, though, he uses the mountain to develop us, right? So extremists, and then these people who want to accomplish these great goals, they train in order to climb the mountain. God uses mountains to train believers. There's a level of preparation that the Lord puts you through before he sets you before the mountain. And notice I said sets you before it, not it before you. There's a level of preparation, of discipline, of relationship. There's a level of development that has happened before God places you in front of certain mountains. But it's not often that you're being trained to climb the mountain. It is often that God uses the mountain to train you. Hi, hey Queen, hey Dr. Queen. So I wrote down some of the symbols that mountains represent. Some of the things that mountains can represent symbolically. Hey twin. Yes, he uses the mountain to train us versus we train to climb the mountain. Hey Jazz. So I wrote down some of the symbols, right, for mountains. So in the positive, mountains can symbolically be a place of prayer. They can represent heaven in scripture sometimes, refuge, a place of meeting with God, right? In the negative, mountains symbolically will be a representation of an obstacle or like impossibility. Now, I actually looked up all of the symbols in scripture for mountains and the scriptures that go along with them. I can post those in the group for you, because if I show y'all my page right now, y'all see there's a lot. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. So I'll type it up and I'll post it in the group so y'all can look these up yourself, but I'll just tell you what some of them are, right? So mountain can be a spiritual high place. It can represent heaven. It can represent impossibility or an obstacle. It can represent refuge or a hideaway. It can represent a meeting place with God, God's presence. It can represent a place of prayer, a place of worship, a place of transformation. It can represent separation. It can represent something being ancient. So that last symbol of mountain made me look up what is the youngest mountain on the earth. So I'm gonna share that with y'all because it was just fascinating to me. So the youngest mountain that exists is in Asia, and it's the Himalayan mountains. It's the youngest fold mountain in the world. And do y'all want to know how old these joints are? Like, anyway, the other youngest mountain forms are the Appalachian Mountains. The Appalachian Mountains formed 400 million years ago. They're the youngest. The Himalayan Mountains, they started forming 60 million years ago, and they're still rising. That's why Appalachians and Himalayas are like both listed as the youngest mountains, youngest mountain forms. So if we're thinking about like my mountain is made especially for me, and mountains symbolically and scripturally can represent like something ancient, a landform that is ancient. It is not because it is inactive or that it has stopped growing, but it is because for it to become a mountain, right, classified of its peak at least being 1,000 feet over its surroundings, for it to be classified as such, that means over millions of years, it's been like slowly, steadily increasing its peak as the Earth's crust has been moving. There are some mountains that form faster than that, but when we're talking about the youngest ones that exist, we're looking at the Himalayas and the Appalachian Mountains, and they formed over 400 million and over 60 million years ago. Something about that reminded me of another affirmation that I am now of, the always have been. The God who we serve sent his son down just thousands of years ago, just 2,000 years ago. He formed things in the earth millions of years ago, hundreds of millions, tens of millions, and hundreds of millions of years ago. To me, right, that ancient thing, it started making me think of like ancient demons, ancient things that are present in generations and bloodlines. Like I started thinking about like what kinds of things do I know spiritually that are ancient, right? um and I just thought about the affirmation and was like, if some of these landforms are this old and these are the things that they represent, and we were made like not necessarily to move them. It's not always to move them. It's not always to climb to their peak. It's not always to conquer them. But there is something in the mountain. There's something on the mountain. There's a place at the mountain like that God uses for different things for us, right? These ancient things that were formed as the earth has moved, as it has crashed and collided, as it has shifted, as it has erupted, as it has done all the things that cause mountains to form, right? God, eternal God, always been existing God, the not created one, when he created us and he pulled us into the now, into the time assignment that we have in the earth, like before we were pulled into the earth, the spirit us, the you that existed with him in eternity, had always been formed and fashioned for the specific mountain, right? The mountain was made for you. It's hundreds of millions of years old, but you've always existed. So that mountain, he's taken all that time to form it. It went through its certain crash to come about. It went through its eruption to come about. But all of those things that caused it to form, it was made especially for when you were going to come to it. And it, man, it was just, just a slightly mind-blowing thing for me, right? That I am only 33 years old, and some of the mountains that the Lord would have me to face or to conquer or to climb or to move or not move. Some of these mountains are literally and naturally millions of years old, yet God had always designed for me to be the one who came up to that thing, for you to be the one who came up to that thing, right? It's not an accident, it's not a mistake, it's not meant to crush you. And so when I was sitting with this affirmation, God brought something to my mind. I couldn't fully remember. I could just remember parts of it. So I went searching for it and I found it, and I wanted to read this for y'all. When I was younger, I had read this story. I don't know who the author is. I'd never known who the author is, but y'all might know this. Hold on. Let me put my phone on do not disturb because the people are going off in the chat. All right. When I was younger, I read this story and it had like a picture with it. It was like a motivational story about a man and a rock. I don't know who wrote it. I have not been able to find this story for years. I found it this week. And God had reminded me of this story as I've been looking at this affirmation. So I'm going to read it to you real quick. I don't know the name. Pushing the Rock is what we could call it. All right. So there once was a man. This is the story, the motivational story. There once was a man who was asleep one night in his cabin when suddenly his room filled with light and the Savior appeared to him. The Lord told him he had a work for him to do and showed him a large rock, explaining that he was to push against the rock with all his might. And this man did. And for many days he toiled from sun up to sundown, his shoulders set squarely against the cold, massive surface of the rock, pushing with all his might. Each night, the man returned to his cabin, sore and worn out, feeling his whole day had been spent in vain. Seeing that the man showed signs of discouragement, Satan decided to enter the picture, placing thoughts in his mind such as, why are you killing yourself over this? You're never going to move it. Or, boy, you've been at this a long time and you haven't even scratched the surface. Giving the man the impression that the task was impossible and the man was an unworthy servant because he was not moving the massive stone. These thoughts discouraged and disheartened the man, and he started to ease up in his efforts. Why should I kill myself? He thought. I'll just put in my time putting forth just the minimum effort, and that's going to be good enough. And this he did, or at least he planned on doing, until one day he decided to take his troubles to the Lord. Lord, he said, I have labored hard and long in your service, putting forth all my strength to do that which you have asked of me. Yet after all this time, I have not even budged that rock a half a millimeter. What is wrong? Why am I failing? To this, the Lord responded compassionately, my friend, when I asked you to serve me long ago and you accepted, I told you to push against the rock with all your strength, and that you have done. But never once did I mention to you that I expected for you to move it. At least not by yourself. Your task was to push. And now you come to me, your strength spent, thinking that you have failed, ready to quit. But is this really so? Look at yourself. Your arms are strong and muscled, your back sinewed and brown. Your hands are calloused from constant pressure, and your legs have become massive and hard. Through opposition, you have grown much, and your ability now far surpasses that which you used to have. Yet still, you haven't succeeded in moving the rock, and you come to me now with a heavy heart and your strength spent. But now I, my friend, will move the rock. Y'all, I forgot the details of this story. I just remembered, Jesus, I just remembered that it was like this man, he was given an instruction to push the rock. And the whole time he had thought he was supposed to move the rock. And so he got discouraged doing it because he's like, I'm giving it everything I have, y'all. And I'm telling you, I'm not going to say anything extra because everything that God wanted to come out, it was in there. The man was like, I'm giving it all I have and I'm not moving the rock. And then I remembered in the story that at the end of it, the purpose was never for him to move the rock. It was as he pushed against it, as he put his weight on it, as he tried with all his might, he was developed. He became bronze in his skin. He became tan. He became muscly. He became strong. He gained endurance. He became much more than what he was at the start of pushing the rock. And it was never for him to have to move it, ever. When he finally opened his mouth and was like, God, you told me to push this thing, and I've done what you said. I've been doing what you asked me to do, God, and nothing's happening. And the Lord was like, finally, you have talked to me about your mountain. Finally, you have told me your burdens. Finally, you've talked to me about the things that you think and the things that have been going wrong. Finally, you told me your real feelings. Finally, you have stopped faking the funk with me, and you have finally come to me and told me how much this sucks and how much it hurts and how awful it is and how, God, can you just give me some money? Like, why are we playing? Can you just make the people stop attacking me? Why are we playing? Like, Lord, why do I have to keep doing all of this? Why? I'm doing what you told me to do. Why do I have to keep dealing with this? Why is it that there's constantly a mountain in front of me and you're telling me I'm always having to climb it? Why, God? And the Lord is like, I never told you. I never told you you had to move the rock. I just said to push it. Push against it. You were obedient in that, and now look at you. I'm going to move it. And I don't know about y'all, but this week, this past month, these past couple of months, every single thing that was in that story is literally the conversations that I've been having with my friends. It's literally the things that the enemies try to, come to me with, like, ain't you been doing everything you tried to do? And look at you. Ain't nothing happening. You just need to stop. Like, are you sure the Lord told you? You know what I mean? Like, the mountain is in front of us, and we think that we're supposed to climb to its peak, or we think, oh, we gotta Mark 11:23, that thing. Oh, if I just have enough faith, then the Lord said if I didn't doubt in my heart, I could tell the mountain to move and it would move. And then when we speak it and it doesn't move, then we're thinking something's wrong with us. No, it's not a scripture, it's a story that I don't know who the author is. I've never known. All the years that I read this story years ago, never thought about it until this week doing this affirmation. The Lord brought it to my mind and I went searching for it and I found it. I will also put this story in our group. So I'll put the symbols and the scriptures, and I'll put this story in the group so that y'all have it. But man, it's so many of, I sure will. Yep, I will share it. It's so many conversations that I've had, so many prayers that I've had, so many. Yo, I am not available right now. Stop knocking on my door. Go ahead. Go ahead. Man, it's just so many frustrating moments. So many moments of like not understanding why things were allowed to be happening, right? Then the very last thing that the Lord had brought to my mind was those ridges that are along the steep sides of the mountains. And y'all remember the affirmation Jasmine brought it to us about my feet being like hinds feet. there are, man, God, he was just showing me like, he never told you that you had to move the rock, right? He never told you that you had to find the mountain easy, right? Like there's just some things that God never told us we had to do. And he started showing me like those ridges that are in the sides of the mountain, like when people are climbing, when animals are climbing, there are so many pockets, and oftentimes in mountains there are caves, right? But there are always these little ridges that you can either grip and grab a hold of with your hand, you can step on. Some of them, like I mentioned before, are large enough that they can be a landing for you to catch your breath as you make your ascend. And man, like, oh God, he's still dealing with me on it. Like, my mountain is made especially for me. And yes, you can, it's literally this repetition of the Lord saying, I just need you to climb. I don't even need you to be thinking about, can you make it to the peak or not? I just need you to climb. I just need you to climb. And when you catch a good ridge that you can take a breath and then keep climbing. Like, I just need you to climb. And when you find a cave in the side, hide away with me. Like, it's this repetition of the Lord saying, I didn't tell you to be perfect. I didn't tell you you had to provide for yourself. I didn't tell you X, Y, and Z. I didn't say it was going to be easy. I didn't say it was going to feel good. But I didn't tell you that you had to do the impossible. I just gave you one instruction to keep climbing or to move forward. And then as you released it to me, I would do the hard part. That's it. Your mountain is made especially for you. It was designed, formed, fashioned, erupted, shifted, crashed. It was created so that when you approached it, every single thing that needs to be developed, strengthened, to be pulled out of you would come out. It would come out. And it's just so interesting to me that symbolically mountains can represent the presence of God and like a refuge, a hideaway, going to the top of the mountain to be with the Lord, right? And then on the other end, we think of it as impossibility or an obstacle. It's just so amazing to me that that's what it represents, right? Because literally, in order for you to be able to make it through the mountain, you have to talk to God. Some people regularly go to mountains to fast and spend time alone with the Lord because everybody's not willing to climb a mountain. So you can often find yourself alone as you go. Everyone's not willing to do as much as you are willing to do. Everyone's yes is not at the level that your yes is. I'm going to need y'all to give me a moment because I told y'all what I was doing. I need you to give me a moment. I told you what I was going to be doing. As soon as I finish, I got you. Right? Everyone's yes is not the same. Everyone's surrender is not the same. Everybody's not willing to climb the mountain to go meet with God. But for you to even ascend the mountain, you need him to do it. So it was just amazing to me, the symbolism of the obstacle versus the hiding place, the impossibility versus the place in his presence and the hideaway. Like, my mountain is made especially for me. And Ariana says something in the comments this week that I was like, yes, exactly that. Like, I'd rather take my mountain with the specific base, peaks and valleys, inclines and declines, the steep, like, I'd rather take the one that's designed to form something in me than the one that's meant for somebody else, because God's been dealing with me this week about becoming a better empathetic listener instead of being just an active listener and I empathize with people, but then when I go to verbalize the empathy, it's actually sympathetic responses that I give, because I'm trying to show them that I feel for them by the way that I know how, or something I've experienced. And that's not empathy. Empathy is you seeing the other person and their feelings, what they're going through, and letting them know that you see it and that you do feel for it. But the attention and the focus, it remains on them. It does not remain in you trying to bring yourself to the forefront. And so God's been really like dealing with me on like language for this, for being empathetic, right? And oh my gosh, yes. And so like the empathy thing, the empathetic listening thing, he started dealing with me in this way, so that I could just be like a better space for other people, and more like even more of like an emotional intelligence, and being able to verbalize it better so that other people have a space, right? And in that, in thinking of the empathetic listening, right, I much rather have my mountain, because it was designed for me. So whether it sucks or not, whether it hurts or not, whether it's the worst and it's for the birds and it's the ghetto and these demons need to back up off me, whether it is all of those things, I can take it though, and it's going to make me become who I need to be. I hear other people's mountains and I'm like, wow, like what you had to go through. I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could do it. What you had to go through, it's a reason why you're going through that and I'm going through this. Like, because that would produce something different in me than what God is trying to produce in me. What I mean, God's really been dealing with me about that empathy versus sympathy, my mountain versus somebody else's mountain thing. And I was so grateful that someone had said it in the comments. Like I said, Ariana had brought it up. I much rather deal with the mountain that is designed for me, because it's going to develop me to be the me that God needs me to be. I can't take nobody else's mountain. Can't do it. My mountain is made especially for me. God knows exactly what it is going to take for me to be who he says I am. God knows exactly what it's going to take for you to be who he says you are. We are all different parts of the body. And it's going to take a different road, a different path, a different lesson, a different level of intensity in the same lessons. It's going to take all different things for us all to be who God has called us to be. So my mountain is made especially for me, because what I got going on, it ain't for somebody else. And then what y'all got going on, it ain't for me, child. It ain't for me. I'm grateful for the one I got. I'm grateful. So that's, he's still dealing. He's gonna keep dealing with me on this, as I'm sure he's gonna keep dealing with y'all. Like, my mountain is made especially for me. So I'm gonna share the stuff in the group. I do have the story typed up already, so I can share that one quickly. I'll get the symbols, excuse me, and the scriptures shared in the group for y'all. But my God. I think that the hopeful thing is actually something that Dr. Gibson said this week is, we don't necessarily need to know why, like giving up the why part. Why did this happen? Why is this being allowed to happen? There's like a peace in having that certain level of confidence in like the God that you serve, like the Hebrew boys, when they were like, you know what? Our God could deliver us. Like, he can. Our God, we're not going to bow down and serve you. We're not going to claim we're not going to claim your God, right? We serve this God over here. And whether he delivers us from the furnace or not, he could. He can. He is able to. And if he doesn't, then it's for a reason. if he does, it's for a reason, right? There's just so many things that God's been dealing with me about, like this whole surrendering to him and like the level of our yes. He's really been challenging me with what it means to be a slave to Christ versus just someone who says they believe in Jesus, right? And he's been challenging that. He's been challenging that, like by talking to me about, even if some promises aren't fulfilled, even if some things don't ever get easier, do I believe him or not? Do I have confidence that he is who he says he is or not? Would I compromise or not? Right? Like, whether if he never did another thing, will I still say yes? Like, and this is where my mountain is made, especially for me, was just hitting me another way, because he already been dealing with me about the surrendering and the slave. And a servant and a slave are two completely different things, right? And it's like, this is hitting on a whole nother level. Like, if some stuff never got easier, is he to you who he says he is? Like, is he to you who he says he is? If you were like our brothers and sisters in these countries who are getting killed for their faith in him, who have underground meetings because of their governments, like, if we were at the level of severity that you would be laying down your life if the councilman, man, if he doesn't deliver you, is he still a deliverer? Like, God's just been dealing with me on, do I actually believe that he is who he says he is? Do I serve him no matter what? If he were to deliver me out of the furnace or not, do I know he's able to do it? And so my mountain is made especially for me, because it's just some things that they're not going to be easy. It's also not what we signed up for. Like, if we're reading our Bible, if we're keeping it 100, it is not what we signed up for. Jesus said that there's things we're going to be able to do. The Lord says a lot of blessings and promises that we can have, right? But the fact of the matter is, the warning that Jesus Christ gave was, if they do X, Y, and Z to me, they're going to do it even more to you because you believe in me. And God's been reckoning. He's been reckoning, like he's been reconciling me with those thoughts and those understandings. Even if they hate you, would you still say yes? Like, even if. And when all the awful things happen, would you at least just cry out to me and tell me about it, and I'll do something about it? Like, so all the stuff that's been happening, right, to you, there are some things that, no, like, not everything had to happen, right? We're human. We do have the ability to make choices. We do have free will. Like, we have to face the consequences of our decisions and our actions, right? So there's some things that God does not intend for us. But this is also where his word comes in, that he does work everything out for the good, though, for the ones who are called according to his purpose, for the ones who love him, right? So my mountain is made especially for me, is designed to develop me, is designed to get me into those places where I am in the presence of the Lord and I am hiding away with him. But the mountain took hundreds of millions of years to even come, like, as far and as high as it is. It's not going to jump and squish you. Like, it's not going to move onto you. It's not going to move you. It's not going to move and attack you. The mountain's not going to do anything to you. Everything about the mountain is for you to do something with it. So That's it. I don't have anything else. The Lord's dealing with me on this the same way he's dealing with y'all. But I would just encourage you to say, like, keep saying this. Honestly, sometimes like the stuff that the Lord starts showing me about some of these affirmations, and like when I'm reading scripture and I'm asking him for revelation on things, how he shows me like in the spirit and like what it looks like and feels like is way more than what I'm able to verbalize to y'all. So it's like you have to absolutely do your due diligence and go speak it over yourself. Go sit with it yourself, because the way that he's gonna deal with you is going to be that same thing where it's like, whoa, like the Lord's going to give you all these perspectives and all this revelation. And it might not be nothing that I said on here tonight, but I pray that whatever I said was helpful and encouraging. And I just encourage us to affirm ourselves in this. My mountain is made especially for me. It's not going to kill me. It sucks. It's hard. I hate it. But there are ridges where as I climb, I'm going to be able to catch my breath. There are caves and there are peaks where when I get to those places, I can hide with the Lord and tell him all of the things that are happening, and he will meet me there. He'll meet me and he'll do something. I'm just looking at y'all's comments. But that's it. That's all I have. So we did the announcements at the beginning. I love y'all so much. I'm going to share all this stuff into the group. But I just pray that this blesses you. And I just keep hearing that thing that we were saying months ago, like, don't give up. Don't give up. Keep declaring, keep believing, keep praying, keep your mind made up as to whose side you're on. Like, don't stop, because as you keep pushing, your muscles are going to form. As you keep pushing, like, you're going to keep developing everything that God is needing to develop in you. Sheesh. Girl, I just read your comment. Would you at least tell me how hard it is? My God. Right. What do we have to lose by telling the God of the mountain how impossible it looks to climb? Do I trust his intention towards me is always truly good, even when my experience feels so bad? Do I trust the reason, even if I don't know the why? I'm telling you. Like, no, my perspective is limited. He has to even develop the perspective for me to trust that he's doing it all for a reason. Like, you know what I mean? Okay. All right. I'm done. I'm literally just sitting here with the weight of what he's doing right now. So I love y'all. I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. And I'll get all that stuff into the group for you so that you have access to it. And I'll see y'all next time. I'll see y'all on Monday. Bye, everybody.